Hey, thank you for being here today. What a crowd. Thank you. It means the world to me. I continue to be overwhelmed by our support. And I know this means a lot to Stephen and to Joe today and their families. And thank you all for being here and supporting a great day for our university. So let me just kind of get you the lay of the land here. We got two things we're doing today. Okay, we're going to introduce our new cross-country coach, which is Stephen Cary. And we're also going to say goodbye in a very celebratory way to Joe Semproni, who's been our coach for the last 15 years, okay? So we're going to, yes, both of those. So Joe had not planned to speak. Joe wants to make all this day about Stephen, and I appreciate that, Joe. But Al told him, he said, you know, you've been here 40 years, you need to speak. So we'll thank you, Joe, for taking a little bit of that for us. And so what we'll do is just kind of start the day off, and I'm going to let Dr. Harshbarger talk a little bit about Joe and kind of how all this evolved. And before I go any further, Stan Aldridge is here, who hired Joe. Stan and Wanda, thank you for being here, and thank you for making all this possible. Dr. Dorman here, thank you for being here today. And for everybody, our faculty and staff across campus, thank you. This is a great turnout, and you're making this a memorable day for Stephen Cary, and that's what my goal today was. So we'll start out, and would like for Dr. Harshbarger to talk a little bit about Joe and a little bit about Stephen. So big hand for Dr. Harshbarger.
Thank you, Wendell. I'm Bruce Harshbarger. I've been the VP for Student Affairs here for 20 years, so was around when Stan talked and counting an econ professor into coming out and helping from time to time with the cross-country team. Back in the 90s, we went through a period where cross-country was coached by a cast that turned over from time to time, usually people who were assistant coaches for other teams, did a good job with what they were doing, but of course their primary focus and responsibility was with their primary sport. Meanwhile, Joe was running all over town. He's been an avid distance runner all the time. He was serving as a department chair here and as a faculty member here for 20 years. And Stan asked if he would be interested in coming out and helping as an assistant. And a couple of years later, he was our head coach and filling in on what we thought was a year-to-year basis, and that was 15 years ago. And needless to say, brought continuity and a dedication to the program that it had not had before, and what this program is today is a result of the imprint that Joe has put on it and the legacy that Coach Semproni has left. Just a couple of things I'd like to share with you about what Coach Semproni brought to the program. Obviously, the recruiting got better and better. The talent got better and better. Our best team accomplishments, our best runners, our best individual times have all been under his leadership of the program. But I think more importantly than that, Coach Semproni has been the true embodiment of the student-first philosophy here. He brought in a tradition of doing something that I just thought was incredibly cool. Cross-country is not the most high-profile glamour sport on campus, and he wanted our student athletes to really have special experiences. So in addition to our athletic conference in the Southeast, he would take them at least once a season all over the country to run. They've been to the West Coast, they've been to New England, they've gone incredible places to run as teams. But while they were there, Joe always made sure that they saw the city that they were in, that they saw a different part of the country, visited museums, had exposure to art. It was just a tremendous asset to the program. And something I think that is going to be an annual tradition began last year. Joe had the idea of, in terms of leadership development, exposing some of our female student athletes to relationships with the administration on campus and set up luncheons with the president and provost. Just an ideal representation of what athletics is all about at Georgia College. in an athletic program where the average grade point average is over, for student athletes, is over 3.2, typically every year men's and women's cross country are at the top of that list. So they turn out to be front runners in more ways than one, Joe. So thank you again for that legacy that you leave the program. And Stephen, thank you for stepping up to inherit that legacy. Coach Cary not only understands the sport, having been a four-year runner at Valdosta, but he has the same passion, he has the same commitment to the student-first philosophy. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Wendell.
Thank you, Dr. Harshbarger. Also want to welcome Jordan and their Stephen's wife and two lovely children who are here this morning. And Stephen's dad's here with us today, too. So thank you for being here. A special day for your family. I want to talk about Joe a little bit. In fact, I've got, how many of you had Joe in class? I know I talked to one or two. Do you all want to come up and talk or not? So Joe started here in 83. And then retired in 03 from the teaching aspect of it, and then stayed on and certainly has helped us for years as well. So, Joe is a super human being. He'll give you the shirt off his back. He really he cares first and foremost about the student, period, and them developing as a person. And he'll talk to you about his student athletes and what they're doing now, and the ones that all the walks of life, and stays in touch with them, and he's really the embodiment of really what we're all about. And I want to thank you for that, Joe. The first week I got here, which was almost 6 years ago, Patty said, "Well, Joe Samproni wants to meet with you." I thought, "Oh no," and so when he came in, I didn't know Joe, but I didn't know Joe, but I thought, well, new AD's coming in, coach has been here a while, he's probably going to tell me he's going to retire. So when he walked in, I said, "Joe, please tell me you're not going to retire." And he said, "Well, I'm not telling you that, but I'm telling you that the end is probably near." And I said, "If you'll just do me a favor, and if you'll just give me a year warning, that would be grateful for me." And so what became 1 year went to 2, and now we ended up 6 years. And the problem that Joe has in leaving is that he cares so much about the students that he works with. And but I know that he feels this is in great hands now, and that we're ready to continue to move forward. And so I want to, at our staff meetings, Joe is the one who always makes you think. He thinks out of the box. He challenges people. I love that. And he really makes you think in a different form. And I think that's great, particularly with him being faculty his whole life. I think that was really refreshing for our department to have that for all those years. So thank you so much. And Joe and Patty's been his right hand as well for years. And any of our meets, Patty's always there helping us run things, and we hope that will continue. I know it will. But they do quite a bit of traveling, and they're getting ready to do even more traveling. So Joe Winters in Arizona and has been kind enough to continue to share with us for all these years. So Joe, what I'd like for you to do, if you wouldn't mind, just say a couple words, and then I'd like for you to talk about Stephen, okay? So a big hand for Joe Samproni.
As Wendell said, I wasn't on the schedule to talk today, but I became part of the schedule when I walked in, and Al told me I had to say something. So bear with me, please. Someone said Stan was here. There he is, okay. I don't know whether to thank Stan or not for the past 15 years, but one of the things that I was waiting for, and it took 15 years, is for the arrival of Stephen Cary. Stephen has been just a tremendous asset to our program. A lot of the things that have happened since Stephen got here over the past 4 years have been Stephen, totally. He came in here, and my guess is Stephen's like a lot of folks that come to Millersville, Georgia. They say, "Well, gee, I don't want to really stay there. I don't enjoy the college. I'd rather go big school." And it's been a 4-year process. But I have every confidence that I am leaving this program in the best hands I possibly could. Stephen is a great coach, a great person. He and Jordan have a great family. They're part of Milledgeville. They love it here. And my hope is that in 40 years, when I come back, Stephen will still be here. I think cross country, like I say, Wendell was right. I didn't want to just leave it. I didn't want it to go back to the assistant women's basketball coach as the head cross country coach because someone has to. That's not the way the program has been treated. We grew phenomenally under Stan. Part of the deal I made with Stan when I took the job was treat us like every other sport. Don't just consider us, something off to the side. And Stan was fantastic in terms of our budget grew from almost nothing to a reasonable budget. The support we got from all of the other coaches in the department was incredible. One story that Wendell doesn't know, between Stan and Wendell, there was another AD named Judd, and the first day Judd showed up, I handed him my letter of resignation, and then he said, you can't do this now. And I said, okay. He says, do it at the end of my first year. The problem was Judd left in April of that year. And Joe's sitting there in May holding on to a letter of resignation that Wendell didn't get when he arrived in September. So this has been a long time coming, but it's not to leave. It was just, I thought we could get someone, just like we did with Stephen, for whom this would be a career. This is a great job. This is a great institution. Why not turn it over to someone who's looking for a great career? And with no further ado, I'm going to say Stephen Cary. You're going to talk next? And I will tell you one other thing. The guy with the suit is getting the job. The guy with no socks is leaving the job. Thank you.
Fantastic, Joe. Joe also does so many things behind the scenes in support that you all don't know about, and he's just a wonderful, wonderful person. So thank you and Patty and for everything that you've done for our university and continue to do, and for our student athletes. So thank you so much. So we're now going to get to introducing Stephen, and I want to first off, and I want to thank Stan. I always say that I think Mo's in here. Mo was one of our assistant coaches. Mark was one of our assistant coaches. Even before that, Maroka, Tom was, trying to figure out, Ginger was at one point. Ginger's in here. So we've had a good history of hiring the right staff, but that all goes back to Stan hiring the right staff years ago. So that's still, his imprint is still in this program, will always be on this program. And I know he gets tired of me saying that and doesn't like me to say that publicly, but I say it every time because I'm thankful for what he's meant to me and for our department. So thank you, Stan, for allowing this. I saw this the other day, culture eats strategy for breakfast every morning. And I thought, that is a great statement. And so then I thought, well, what is culture? Culture is people. Culture is this right here, okay? Culture is for our cross-country coach that we're hiring. We probably got 100 people in this room today. That's culture, okay? Because it's the right people driving the ship, okay? That's what culture is. So I always tell everybody, when I meet with parents, I say, listen, I can tell you that, what I do is I hire people. We have a very attractive job at Georgia College, whether it's for math or theater or anything, you name it, okay? We always get a ton of applications for every job because it's a great university. So I can hire anybody who can recruit. I can hire anybody who can run a drill. I can hire anybody that can draw up a practice, all those things. Everybody's got that. Every applicant has that. But I can't hire the right value system, okay? I have to really search for the right value system. And again, so for me, so what does that mean? It means that if I hire the right person, then Stephen is going to recruit the right people that are going to be our students. And Trevor's out here, one of our student athletes. And thank you for being here today, Trevor. And so that means that we're hiring the right people who produce the right folks, and then it's just so on and so on and so on down the line. So the culture is really there if you just hire the right people. So to me, that's where that's at, and I'm confident that we're doing that today. And so when there's 13 words that sum our department up. We align with our university values. That's the first and foremost thing. In any department you see where they have issues, they didn't align with the value system of the university. So we align. But in hiring employees, you have to have people that not only align, but they embrace that culture, and they embrace what our values are. So we align with the mission of our university. We're engaged in our community and all of our coaching staff, and that's one of the things Stephen talked about, was doing even more of that, of the engagement in our community. And you can go on our website and look and see 100 different things where we're out in our community doing things. And then finally, we educate and we lead through athletics, okay? That's really what we do. And so we're no different. Again, if we were different, I wouldn't be here. And that's what's important to me. And, you know, I asked Stephen, I said, tell me what are the strengths of our program? When you go talk to student athletes, what are the strengths of our program? And the first thing he talked about was the culture. And he talked about the team environment that we have. And if you've ever been to any of our sack dances, which you probably haven't, if you've ever been to any of our sack dances, the cross-country team, those folks get along an incredible amount. And they've got this really close bond that is very, very unique. And, you know, again, when you travel together, you spend all this time together, that's very important. But the culture always starts with this recruiting part of getting the right people in here. So he talked about the team chemistry, and then he talked about, I said, what's your vision? And I want you to listen to this. These are my notes from when I interviewed him. He says, I want to produce people that are successfully academically, socially, and athletically so that they're successful in life. I mean, think about it. That may sound this, that, and that, but that guy lives that, and so does Joe. And so that's why I'm so confident in handling this program. And again, for me, my ultimate litmus test is I have 2 children. Would I want my children to play for this coach? Unequivocally, yes. Big, warm Bobcat welcome to our new head cross-country coach, Stephen Cary.
Whew. Wow. Thank you, guys. Man, I'm just so thrilled to be standing in front of you as the new men's and women's head cross-country coach at this school. You see, Joe will tell you about a little less than 10 years ago, I emailed Joe as a high school senior asking him about the program at Georgia College, interested in running here. And I actually did come on a visit, Joe, but I never got a response from Joe, and so I kind of just wrote it off and said, well, you know, I was pursuing other schools as well, and so I ended up going a little further south to Valdosta State. But ironically, the next year, my brother signed with Georgia College, and so for the next 4 years, we had this little rivalry going on between VSU and Georgia College. Even some of the teammates and the coaches. I was telling somebody earlier, you know, Joe would heckle me before the races and stuff. But in a good way. It was fun. It was friendly rivalry. But at the end of my time at VSU, I realized that I wanted to coach, and I wanted to make this a career, and I wanted to pursue a master's degree in exercise science. I thought that would, you know, kind of springboard me into that profession and give me the tools that I needed to be able to train folks at a high level. And so I was talking to a buddy of mine that I worked for. He had mentioned that Georgia College had a master's program in kinesiology. Well, immediately, I actually knew the graduate assistant here at Georgia College, and I knew she was getting ready to graduate. So I contacted Joe. I emailed him again. And he responded this time, and he gave me the okay, and so for the last 4 years, I've been here helping Joe out and Wendell and the rest of Georgia College athletics in the best way that I possibly can. And so Joe wasn't able to shake me. Somehow it was meant to be. But you know, getting to this point wasn't easy, and there were a lot of people involved. I could literally it'd take days to thank every single person. But there are a few people that I would like to thank publicly. The first person is my middle school coach, Rob Blaskowitz. You know, in middle school, you know, I was involved in many sports, but Coach B, as we called him, just really instilled in me the passion, and he made running fun. You know, it wasn't just a punishment like I had originally thought it was. He made it fun, and he really, took me and my brother under his wing and showed us the ropes and really showed me that running can be enjoyable and I could be good at it. The next person I would like to thank is, two people, Coach Tim Kemp and Coach Ron Coleman, my high school coaches. Coach Kemp was an extraordinary man and a long history in track and field in the state of Georgia at Monterey Area High School, and really produced some great athletes. And he just showed me that working hard is the only way to be able to reach success, and you can't cut corners. His passion and desire was out of this world, and he also got me thinking about the technical aspect. I was before I met Coach Kemp, I was just thinking about running. I hadn't even thought about the fact that once you get competitive, you got to actually consider strategy and stuff as well. So he got me thinking about that, and Coach Coleman was my cross-country coach, and man, he just cared about people. He didn't necessarily have the knowledge that maybe some of my other coaches had, but he just had the desire to want to help people, and I appreciate that. And then the man that recruited me at Valdosta State, Coach Craig Barnes, he just made running fun. Again, he brought in about 6 or 7 guys my freshman year and created a family. And from that point forward at VSU, that's what I had, was a family. We called each other brothers. I tell people all the time that my boys have so many aunts and uncles that are not even blood related. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And so I appreciate him for that and giving me that opportunity. And then the man that really I consider my college coach, who coached me from the spring of my sophomore year on, Todd Smoot. I don't even know where to begin with that man. He's extraordinary. He was like a father figure away from home, so to speak, and he gave me the tools and the resources to be successful, not only as an athlete, but academically and even socially, as we talk about here at Georgia College, and just in my career. And so I owe a lot to him and just his knowledge. I mean, the man knows the sport very well, and I learned a ton from him from the coaching aspect and also just as a person. And then I also want to thank Joe. Without him accepting me, 4 years ago, I would not be standing here right now. He's been an awesome guy to work for. I would not have asked for a better boss. He made it fun, even though we didn't always see eye to eye. But and he'll tell you this, I've grown and I've matured. I've learned a lot in these 4 years, and I've learned what's important. As a coach, you always want to win, but Joe taught me that there's more than just winning. What do you do when you graduate? Okay, you won a conference championship, but what happens after that? You got to set these student athletes up to be successful in something other than their sport. And he really drove that home to me, and I appreciate that, Joe. And thank you so much for just giving me that opportunity to be your assistant coach 4 years ago. And then, my parents, my mom and dad have been obviously my number one fan ever since, I was small. And, my mom, you go to the races and she'd be the loudest one on the course or the loudest one on the track. I mean, I'm not kidding. But, she really cared about it. She wanted me to have the best experience. And Joe can attest to this. She'd bring baked goods to the races and stuff and give those, because she wanted it to be fun. And she wanted to support us. And I appreciate that, Mom. And then my dad, goodness, he's the one who got me into doing this. And I remember the first run that we went on was around our neighborhood. And before then, I did not care anything about running. I was the slowest guy in field day and in school and in sports. I was the slowest guy on the field. But he took me along, and I remember we finished 2 laps around the neighborhood. It was just a little over a mile, about a mile and a half, I guess. And we were stretching on the back porch afterwards. And my mom walked out on the screen porch. We were stretching, and she said, "Well, how did it go?" And my dad looked at her, and he said, "I think we got a cross-country runner in the family." And I'm thinking, cross-country? I don't want anything to do with running across the country. But he believed in me, and man, those words, "I think we have a cross-country runner in the family," have just rang true. I mean, it's been unbelievable. I still see that moment every day of my life. It's changed. It's literally changed my life. Before then, I did not know that I could be here, and he instilled in me that confidence. And thank you, Dad. He's worked with me in high school, postseason races and stuff, and I still ask him for advice today. I mean, I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for you. Thank you, Dad. And then lastly, my wife and my kids, they're here. And the boys, they don't realize it right now, but they inspire me every day to just be better. I want to be able to set an example for them and show them that, when you want something, you can get it. You just got to work hard. There's no shortcuts. You can't cut corners. You got to, do it the right way. And then my wife, she's had a rough time. I know the past year, I wasn't home a lot, and she was at home raising our boys. When I wasn't there, and but as soon as Wendell offered me this job, I went home and I told her, and she was probably more excited than I was. She was just ecstatic because she knows the work that I put in to be at this point. And I love you, Jordan, and I thank you for just being there, walking with me and supporting me every day. And then Wendell, for giving me this opportunity, believing in me, and just giving me the confidence to move forward in this next chapter of my life. I look forward to being the head coach here and continuing to produce, good people, solid student athletes, people who not only can compete well on the cross-country course and on the track, but also making good grades, doing things in the community to give back, because that's important. And when they go on, they can actually be productive citizens. They can contribute to society, and that's what I look for. I want them to be successful in everything, in relationships, the whole 9 yards. And so I look forward to that and just leading these two teams in a very positive way. Thank you, guys.